You're a SaaS founder, you've built something solid, but growth still feels harder than it should. Most SaaS companies don't fail because of bad tech. They fail because they've never become a must-have to the right customer. This podcast is here to change that. I'm Ton Dobbe, and this is the Remarkable SaaS Podcast. Every week I talk to founders in the trenches, facing friction, making bold moves, and building companies that last. We dig into real choices around focus, positioning, customer pool, team alignment, the things that separate forgettable software from the ones that people can't live without. No hype, no hacks. Just honest conversations to help you build something that people would miss if it was gone. If your SaaS should be indispensable but isn't yet, this is your podcast. Let's get into it. The guest on the podcast this week is Renaud Charvet, co-founder and US CEO of Ringover.
Focus, it might feel slower in the short term, but it compounds, much faster in the long term.
This is Renaud. He started back in 2005 selling cheap international calls. Then Skype, Viber and WhatsApp wiped out his whole business. So he built something new, and that became Ringover. And here's the part that inspired me. They kept what's hardest to build all in-house, while everyone else stitched their product together from other companies' parts and their infrastructure. Yes, it was slower and it cost more, and for years it looked like the wrong call, but it became their moat that underpins their success today. Then he moved his whole family to the US to crack the hardest market there is. Ringover had to face some very big rivals with very deep pockets, and obviously nobody had heard of them. So instead of chasing the whole market, he picked one industry and ignored the rest. Well, hi Renaud. Thank you for making the time available today and being the guest on the podcast.
Sure, very happy to be there today, and thanks for hosting me.
Yeah, that's a pleasure. More of all because of when I got introduced to your company Ringover, I was impressed first of all by the journey that you've been through of over 20 years. And I think there's a lot of things to learn there that we can zoom into. Before we start talking about the company and the journey that you've been through and actually what it does, what energizes you and what drives you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, sure. As an entrepreneur, you want to build like a successful business, but success is not, one defining moment. It's more like thousands of small improvements that compound over time. And so what gives me energy in the morning is waking up that today, I can solve like a real problem, remove a blocker for the team and move the company forward. So it's more like a lot of small things rather than one big thing.
Yeah, you're completely right. It's never one thing that does the whole thing. It's 1,000 things that actually stack up, and it's more the direction that you have to feel and explore. Exactly. Yeah. So just for my own reading and research on the company, you founded the company back in France in 2005 to 2005.
Exactly.
And now it's 20 years down the road. Company was bootstrapped until 2020. Then there's some rounds of funding coming in, and
correct.
Recently you actually moved to the US, which is from 2022, to expand actually into a completely different territory. First of all, for the people that are listening to this, what is Ringover? What is the problem that you're solving?
Yeah. So today, and it was also the case before, like business conversations, they are one of the most valuable sources of information in a company. Yet, most organizations, they don't capture, structure, or leverage this information effectively. And why? Because for years, the phone system, it was kind of like a standalone infrastructure. Everything, all the calls that you made, they were at best recorded and saved on this PBX, on this phone system. And so what we do today is we transform these business communications into a strategic data layer that we connect directly to your business tools, like a CRM, like an ATS for recruiters or a help desk for support. And our mission today is really to help companies to have like better conversations, to capture the intelligence inside these conversations, and ultimately make better decisions.
Yeah, that's a broad one in itself, but I mean, I get your point. It's a very important one. The capturing of data as I mean, you never really thought about it in the last 5 years or so. It really became apparent with the move of AI. I mean, I started capturing and transcribing, for example, the podcast already early on with tools like Otter. And since there's been so many different tools around that particular thing, but suddenly,
actually, everything started from the transcriptions. When we started to have some very good transcription and at a reasonable cost, because
exactly.
transcription has been there over the years, but it was very expensive. It started with voicemail transcription, so it was short conversation. So you were able to pay a few cents per minute. But when you have to transcribe like 45 minutes longer meeting, or you need to find something with a very, very good cost.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it reminded me of the first year of the podcast. I think the first year I actually outsourced this. So someone else, an agency was doing the transcript for me. Very much, possibly assisted with technology, but most of it also by hand, because I needed it for the podcast. But things have changed quite dramatically since. One thing you said is today. This is what you do today. The company was founded on a completely different principle. And the first 10 years, it was a completely different business, right?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, we started as like a classical telecom operator, and we focused on providing cheap international calls to anyone that had like a landline. The idea, it was kind of like a two-step dialing. You were calling like an 08 premium numbers in France, and once you reach this number, you were asked to enter your correspondent number overseas, and you were dialing it, and then you were getting in touch with him, and you were paying like a lower price as if you were calling directly with your landline operator. It went very well until because of the rise of the 3G, then people had like Viber, Skype, and then WhatsApp. Then I mean, you could call for free, so it completely destroyed our business. And we also work on providing some services for businesses like audio conferencing, fax to email, and the phone and the virtual phone system. We only started to work on Ringover starting 2013. Actually, it was kind of an opportunity because there was some new technologies appearing, like WebRTC, where you could make video calls within your browser. You didn't have to install like a standalone software, and also the Opus codec. It's kind of like a deal breaker in a telecom industry, because this codec allows you to adapt the quality, the level of bandwidth that you use to send the voice over the internet, depending on how good your internet connection was. And so that was very, very good. And this is where we started working on Ringover, and we did like 4 years of R&D before being able to sell it here.
Yeah, I mean, it intrigues me at the end, because how many companies have actually gone through a phase whereby their complete business was destroyed by something else, and you have to then start over. I mean, what has been the hardest part there to, first of all, to take a clean sheet of paper and to start thinking, okay, now we have to, well, we've got a blank sheet, we can do it again. What are we going to bet this company on? Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think our fair advantage was like, we didn't have only one service, even if like the overseas calling system was the largest one. We had like the fax to mail, the audio conferencing. We had like other services, like one was like you could drop a voicemail directly on the voicemail box of your correspondent, even if the phone was on. I mean, we have like maybe 10 different services that were like kind of like fueling the company, and like we were like bootstrap for 20 years. Actually, our customers were our first investors, and because of this, when one service was going down, we had the finances to have the time to like develop a new product, and we were always have been like a product company. So the other co-founders, Ludo and Jean-Samuel, they're always looking for new technologies and new opportunities to make some new services. So I think having this mix of revenue and a product-driven company, and we were able to build Ringover, and at the time to build it the way we wanted.
Well, yeah, I got a question on that. So what was a fundamental decision that you took back then that's paying dividend right now, that is actually sort of fueling the success that you have today?
So I think, especially, when we started, like the first version of Ringover, actually at the beginning, it was only like a phone system on the cloud. It was not connected to any business tools. So, like people were seeing it as a commodity. When you were talking to prospects, it was only about price. And the first big difference I think that we made is when we started connected Ringover to the business tools like CRM, Salesforce, HubSpot, and helpdesk like Zendesk, or even like a recruiting software and ATS. When we started doing this, we were able, to synchronize the contacts between our tool Ringover and the business tool. So the customers were starting to know who was calling before answering. And then we were able, to log the calls, the SMS, the voicemail recordings, everything in the business tool. So we were able to give our customer some metrics, and so they could measure and coach their team's performance. And then we started to talk about ROI, not about cost and productivity. And so instead of talking, to like the CFO and discussing about price, then we were talking productivity with like head of sales, head of support, or head of revenue, for instance. So that was really the big change, and that was really when Ringover starting to boom.
Yeah, that's a fundamental one. I hear so many software companies that are providing a tool whereby they say, you save hours, you become more efficient, and it's always about the lowering the cost part, whereby too many have an opportunity to do something on the upside and actually do something that actually helps companies become better companies, become more competitive and so on, which is from a value perspective a completely different thing. I actually made a note that this market has of course always been extremely competitive. So that question that then comes up is how do you differentiate in a market like that? But I think you just answered that. Or was there more to it?
Yeah. I mean, how do you differentiate? I think it's like, of course, innovation. Especially with AI. We're moving, to like this communication platform. To the next step will be, to an agentic platform. We're starting to have some voice agents. Like when you call the IVR, they can like pre-filter the call, route to the right correspondent, book meetings. So being on top of innovation and for this is key. But also, I think talking to customers, I think that's one of something I would recommend. As a founder, especially when the company is growing, so you have some C-levels that are like in charge of talking, to your prospects, to your customers, and then you get their feedback, but like through a proxy kind of. So I think, even if it's not your full-time job and you have another mission, taking the time to go on a trade show, for instance, or talk to, some unhappy customers, that contact you on LinkedIn or directly by mail. I mean, I will always take the time to do it because you get so much insight, you got information sometimes that your team members don't want to share with you because, they don't want to hurt you, for instance. Or when you go to a trade show, you can get some insights on the industry. I think this is how you don't lose your momentum and make sure like you will please your customers. Of course, you might not get like the next big idea talking to your customers, but we're talking of like having all these multiple small steps of improvements in your product. I mean, I think this is a great way to get the information from them.
Do you see that back in for example, churn numbers? I mean, is the product a sticky product that people want to stay to, or actually is it also a market whereby if they find a cheaper alternative, they'll switch?
Actually, it really depends on which customer segment you're talking to. It's true that we have noticed, like especially like for the smaller companies, like their needs of like coaching, analytics, reportings on the team performance, is less advanced than a larger company, and they come to Ringover more for like the automatic calling, like the connection with the CRM, because it's always useful, even if you have like a few employees. But the stickiness is much greater when we move to the higher tier of our customer base. Yeah.
Exactly. The problem is bigger, and as a consequence, they appreciate what you've built in a much better way.
Yeah, and also they have the resources to invest in the product, because, for instance, when we have Empower, like our solution of conversation analysis, actually, you need to get the best of it. You need to be able to prompt you, and you need to know in advance what's the outcome you want from this tool, and sometimes, you need to have the assistance of a consultant or just, to spend the time on it. And if you're like your full day on the operations and you can't take this time to hold up a little bit and think about the strategy and what you want to do with the product, then you don't have the same result as someone who, yeah.
Exactly. When I was doing my research, what I also saw is that you've always been quite deliberate about what part of the products that you own and what parts probably not. And I'm particularly talking here about for example, the owned infrastructure and the European data sovereignty, the data centers where you host and these type of things. How important was that in the past, and how important is that today?
So, I mean, from day one, it was already, I think it was kind of one of the core values of the company. Is the idea like if you want to have this competitive edge, you need to own your technology and also your infrastructure. So, for instance, from day one, we had like a server hosted in like a data center. Of course, it's not our data center, but we were renting some cabinets in the data center to put our equipment. And even on the software, we could have gone much faster, like using Twilio or another provider but we built it internally so we can have access, to the lower tier of the technology, and really like do what we want with the product, not depend on someone else's roadmap, and this is key for us. And also, especially in Europe, it's true that data sovereignty is key. So, we all our data is hosted like in France or in Europe. I mean, for the European customers, on our own servers, we're not using like AWS or Google Cloud, for instance. I mean, some customers want to use it, and we have integration with it. So, every time there's a conversation, we can store the recordings in the AWS environment. But by default, everything is hosted on our own equipment in our infrastructure.
Let me make a small interruption here. Renaud just said something that a lot of his competitors wouldn't. While everyone else built on the same rented parts, he decided to build his own, so he would never look like all the others. Because when you look like all the others, you compete on price. And that's a fight that nobody wins. And owning the foundation gave him something the renters couldn't. For some buyers, knowing exactly where their data lives is the whole reason they choose him. And this is what remarkable software companies do. They aim to be different, not just better. They offer something valuable and desirable. And they acknowledge they cannot please everyone. Want to master these traits as well? Simply read my book. I've made the electronic version available for free. Just visit theremarkableeffect.com to grab your copy, and inspiration will spark within 10 minutes. Back to the interview. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes these things are people glance over them and say, yeah, well, I mean, we don't have the infrastructure. We choose the one, we choose the cheapest one, or the whatever the version is. But they do matter, especially when it comes to communications.
I mean, regarding the sales pitch, I mean, it's one of the key differentiator, and also regarding cost, I mean, when you scale and you have your own equipment, I mean, you get better production cost than the competition that's using someone else, to do this.
Exactly. Let me see. So 2013, you said you started to build a product. Then it took a couple of years to get the product there, to start selling it. So the company starts to build success with the product. And then you decide, after 15 years of being bootstrapped, let's do a round of funding. What drove that decision?
Well, yeah, for all these years, our customers were our first investors, so that was very useful. But technology is moving very fast. Competition too, especially in our space, and we were able to start, to go overseas in Spain, in the UK with our own fundings. But we always had in mind, the idea to go on the US market because it's like 50% of the global market share.
True.
And for this, I mean, we had to be realistic. I mean, if we would have gone there on our own, then it would have been at the expense maybe on the product development, and we couldn't have gone as fast as we wanted. So this is when we decided to raise and have this first funding with Expedition Capital.
Okay, so it was for expanding. Now, I've been in this space also quite a bit of time. And for example, if I go back to the time when I was at Unit 4, we also wanted to expand international because we were in the Netherlands. We wanted to go to France, for example. We wanted to go to Germany. So there's multiple options for that. You can partner, you can do a greenfield, do it yourself. You can acquire. All of them have their pros and their cons. And what made you decide to go by yourself to the US, to do a greenfield there, and not, for example, acquire a company and then build from a standard base?
No, that's a good point. I think we wanted to be to go there directly, at least at the beginning. I mean, that could be an option to scale. Acquiring a company, that's not something we are refusing, but to better understand the markets, to get direct feedbacks from customers as well, and not go through a proxy. That's why we wanted to go direct. So no, it's not. I know some companies do it differently, but yeah, it wasn't our choice.
Yeah, it's always a choice. So then in 2020 you did the funding, and in 2022 you actually moved yourself to Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly.
To become the person that is actually going to grow the US. There's now a new group CEO, which was your CTO. So it actually says something about the investment and the commitment that you have to give to become successful in a new market. If you look at it in hindsight, did that decision to actually go there yourself pay off?
Yeah, and I think it was really something necessary to do, especially at the beginning. You enter the US market, you're no one, especially as a French company. So you need to build your team. You need to get your first customers, and having the CEO in the US, it sends because I'm married with kids, so I moved my family over there. So it kind of sends a signal okay, they're not just there to try for 6 months and see if it's going well or not. So the guy moves there with his family, is really committed into this project, and so it helps to gain trust with your first employees and first customers.
Yeah, exactly. It gives such a signal. I know another entrepreneur that actually was founded in the Netherlands, and she and her marketing manager actually moved to Minneapolis to do exactly the same thing, and it really paid off. And yeah, but of course, when you do that, well, you also leave sort of the rest of the company behind, and therefore you have to trust that things will continue to go as well as they went, with you not being there. How did you organize that?
But that's the advantage of not being like a solopreneur. Actually, on Ringover, there's like two other co-founders,
Yeah,
and the president Jean Samuel stays in Paris, as well as the CTPO Ludovic that moved as a CEO a few years later.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's important to keep everything. I mean, because the expansion is good, and of course it can couple for a while, but it shouldn't be that the US becomes the drain of the real of the big company of of headquarters, which I've seen a lot, by the way. You know that the expansion actually starts to to get the whole company into danger. Now, let me see. 2022, you moved. 2026 today. Actually, there's in that same period, there's this other transition coming. So the first time you got your whole business model got wiped out by companies like Skype and like Viber. Then you start building a product indeed in the communications era. But then the AI wave comes, and it totally starts to transform what could be. So I think what I see right now is that the company has sort of made another pivot, and it's a different company from what it was 5 years ago. Is that correct?
No, exactly. I mean, that's kind of like a shift because like AI is changing like the way that businesses interact with their customers or prospects or candidates for recruiters. Actually, there's more and more conversations from different channels, and historically, like all these companies, like that visibility into the emails through CRM records, but not into like the thousands of conversations that are happening every day.
Yeah.
And still, those conversations, they contain like enormous amount of knowledge. And so what we do now is more like based on the transcription we were talking about. Everything like lays on the transcription. We use AI now, to summarize calls, identify next steps, update automatically the CRM records, coach the teams, and extract all this insight, but at scale. So this is like the big difference with before. And what's important to say is like what we do, is not like really replacing humans. It's more like helping them to spend less time on the administrative work, more time, and spend more time when they bring value, like building relationships, closing deals, supporting their customers, and also like coaching their teams.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that intrigues me, and that maybe that is in combination with the move to the US, is at the end, if you see the technology shifts changing so fast, and the expectations are changing every month. Customers expect, we're loving it, let's say, a year ago, and now it's yeah, but everybody's doing it right now. So the bar is increasing. So you find your sweet spot in terms of where the value of the company is coming out at its biggest. We talked a little bit about it before we started the call, about the traits in my book, the remarkable effect. And one of the traits that you chose was the first one, that a remarkable software company acknowledges that they cannot please everybody.
Yeah.
How is it playing out for the group? And maybe like more in context to the US, how did that play a role in actually becoming successful in the US?
Exactly. Like, when we moved to the US, we wanted like to address the market kind of like the way we did in Europe, selling to like support and sales teams. But quickly, like we had to face the ugly truth, kind of like, when you arrive, no one knows you on the market, and you're facing some huge players who are like better financed and have been there for years on the market. And people are like, "Oh, who's Ringover? What should I, work with you? Like, what kind of customers do you have?" So we took some time and they said, okay, like it won't work like this. So let's find like a very specific industry where we bring like the most value, and let's be like laser focused on it. Let's not like spreading around. And actually, so we're starting with staffing. And so what we did with this specific industry, we started like having relationship with like the key players from this industry, like the ATS, which is like the software for the recruiters. So we partners with them. We attended like industry events of staffing, like a SIA or some like very specific, like Bullhorn Engage, for instance, and target only the recruiters and staffing agencies as a prospect. And this way, after a few months, we're starting to be like kind of like legit. Oh yeah, Ringover, I've talked about it, and you can leverage referrals as well. So it was kind of a quick way to get a minimum amount of customers in the US. So yeah, what I would say is like, focus. It might feel slower in the short term, but it compounds, much faster in the long term. Yeah. So that would be my advice. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm nodding here. You can't see that on audio, but it's true, because it's also what I see all the time at the end. Has the knowledge that you gained with the focus, has it also kind of translated to the European market right now, whereby you maybe also get a little bit more focused?
No, exactly. Actually, like I mean, staffing was not kind of a key priority in Europe. It was mostly like sales and support. But like we leveraged the networks and partnerships we had in the US with like these staffing partners, and now we're working with them on the European market, and it's actually like a good source of leads at the moment, and of business. Yes.
Yeah. So you see that like the learning and the experiences you get from going in a more difficult situation are actually paying off. Now, but I also saw recently in 2025 you did a first acquisition. Why an acquisition after 20 years and not earlier?
I mean, it was kind of an opportunity actually, because like, we didn't have like this experience of acquiring some businesses, and like you said, like it can be like a real strategy for going overseas. And so we were like, oh, maybe let's start with like acquiring like a first company in France, not too large. And this way, we can be like we can have this first experience of like because when you make an acquisition, it's not only like a product or some revenue; it's also like a team. So how do you integrate the team to our company? How do you share like the values, and also how do you get like the product to merge with the core product of Ringover? So yeah, it was not a large team. In the end, it was like three or four people. But we learned a lot about it, and I mean it's still in progress. That you don't do it overnight actually.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's of course different strategies when it comes to acquisition. So this was, from what I hear from it, it was purely a technology buy that would kind of complement the Ringover product in order to get that to speed and maybe time to market in a particular area of
No,
innovation.
exactly. Instead of like building again this technology, because the companies are very very strong on like giving some sales recommendation with like a chat on the website, and that's not something we had in our product portfolio, and there was some requests from customers as well. So yeah, this is why we went on it, and it's also a good opportunity to do some cross sales. Like there are some customers that could be interested in Ringover and vice versa. So
yeah, it's the cross and upsell opportunity. What was most interesting about it, by the way?
I think it can maybe the integration can be longer than expected, especially because the team. I mean, our headquarters in Paris, and the team was more on the west of France actually. So even if we have some people remote, they were not like. I mean, we couldn't move like the whole team in the headquarters, so it can be like an additional challenge. And also, like migrating technologies together, like are not as well, as fast as you think. I mean, two products are not like built the same way, so it takes some time to get them to talk together, kind of.
Exactly. What would you do differently with the next acquisition?
I think no, for the next acquisition, we'll still go for like not too big acquisition because we're still on the learning phase. But no, I think having this focus on integrating the team in the company, it's kind of like the same challenge. And when you have a branch in the US or in the US or in Spain, for instance, or UK, they don't always feel like the same as the team in HQ because they're far. People don't see them as much. So I think this is kind of like a similar challenge, like how to make them really feel Ringover after a few months and not like a different entity.
Yeah. And you bring two cultures together, like you say, even though it's a small company, and these companies have always been there to make their own decisions, and suddenly they're part of a larger family. It's impressive how you've been able to grow the company over 20 years, across the 50 million ARR mark. So clearly scaled beyond a number of those milestones that other companies don't even reach. What has been, if you look back in hindsight of the 20 years, what has been the thing that has been something you live by where it comes to scaling a company? What needs to be true?
I mean, what kind of context are you referring to?
Well, I mean, the thing that you always pay attention to where it comes to, okay, we're growing, but I mean, are we growing in the right way? Is it maybe profitability?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Is it?
No, it's true. Like especially after like at the post-COVID era, like people were mostly looking at the top line. Like, oh, we need growth. But like once you have your customers, it's also very important not to lose them because the cost of acquisition is bigger and it's just a waste. Like you had a customer and losing a customer is always like a big pain for us. So no, like a big focus on churn. Like I mean, how to improve like the customer adoption of the product, how to be sure that they will get the value from the product that they expect, that we can match the promises to the customer's experience. So yeah, no, that's one of our hot topic at the moment. Like I said, like the product adoption is great on the higher tiers of the customers, but on the lower tier, like we still have to work to lower the churn. And it's one of the major focus at the moment in the company. Yeah.
Interesting that you say that, because going back to that trait number one, a remarkable software company acknowledges that you cannot please everyone. Isn't that also a sign then, if you're successful at a certain size or a certain type of context where the product is being used, and in other areas it's less successful and you get more churn, to just say, hey, we're not for you? Isn't that something that comes up or is being debated? I know how hard it is, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's true actually. I mean, our focus regarding acquisition is on the higher tier, but because the product, especially like the voice part, we build it like, because we come from this B2C world, like we made this product very easy to use, easy to activate. So we have like this incoming influx, of like smaller customers, and so yeah, we try to please them in a certain way and lower the churn. But it's true that the more and more the product will evolve, the less it will fit the smaller customers. So exactly. Even if we try to have like a lighter offer for Ringover, this is what we have with Talk and Quick Talk. We for the moment, the churn on these two products is not as good as we wish, and we have to work on it.
Yeah, and that might be a reason for it at the end. But it's always something that it's hard to do because there's a certain revenue stream connected to it. and saying no to it at the end to cut it off is like, okay, how are we going to make up for that? But sometimes, and that's what I see in reality, of course, that focus actually helps you get you, beyond that wave in numbers that you cannot even predict for. So that's maybe something to think about. Almost last question. Out of all the 20 years of entrepreneurship, because I saw actually that you started Ringover coming out of school. You were first an intern in a number of financial service companies, and then started Ringover. But what is a lesson that you took in the early days that you still, sort of live vividly today?
I mean, maybe that's the one we talked earlier, like, don't stay too far away from your customer. I think that's the biggest way, especially, when you have a huge goal. I mean, we have some ambition, so the focus could be like, okay, we need to scale this company as fast as possible. But doing this, I mean, don't forget, who are actually your first investors, like your customers. So I think it's really important for like a co-founder or CEO to not be completely disconnected from his customer base and even some prospects.
Exactly. I think you also mentioned the real thing, because a lot of companies say, yes, we are customer focused, and everybody, in sales we are talking to customers, in customer support we're talking to customers, but you specifically say the founder, the CEO. I mean, as the leadership of the company to continuously have those conversations.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then last question, for the people that are listening to this, other founders of software companies or people that aspire to start a software company, what would be a do and what would be a don't that you'd like to share with them based on what you've learned so far?
Do, or maybe maybe regarding the messaging of, for a long time, I think it might be because we are kind of like a product-led company. We were, like selling kind of features, like, you can do this with the product, you can do this. But customers, they don't buy the software, they buy outcomes. So for instance, recruiters, they want more placements, sales, they want more revenue, support, they want more happier customers. So it's I think something to keep in mind is like, don't sell just features, like understand what you can provide to your customers with this product and make sure they understand the value of this for them, exactly. What they can do on the capabilities.
Exactly. Yeah, and a don't?
And a don't, that's also something I like from your 10-point checklist, like don't be just better, like be different. That's I think that's something also more on the sales pitch, like we're better than this competitor because we have this feature extra, or you can do, I don't know, X% better or something. I mean, you need to keep like an identity, share your vision, and because if the customer or the prospect sees you as like, just like a competitor but with a slightly better product, they won't do the effort to change, actually. Like,
exactly.
You need to sell them like a bigger promise than just like a few extra features.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it comes back to the do's and the don'ts are really connected here. First of all, it's about like sell the idea, not the product. And the other one at the end about different and better. People cannot understand and see better, but different is something they can feel. And I always say there's so many competitors out there. We don't compete on the features that we have because typically it's 90-95% equal, because it's, if you're in a particular space, it's table stakes. You need to have it, otherwise you don't even play. But people can never copy how you build it, the decisions that you made early on to solve a particular problem this way or that way. That is where the context comes in, and understanding like what is really going on with your customer, and do we have something that was built for this particular context.
Yeah,
very, very important.
Also, who you're targeting, like, you can be different because, like, these competitors, they serve better, like, I don't know, customer support, and we are experts for recruiters, for instance.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing, the almost 45 minutes of discussion on the journey of the company 20 years in the making and ready for the next 20 years, I would say. Where can people go to find out more about Ringover or to say hi to you?
More about Ringover, of course, on our website, ringover.com. And regarding reaching out to me, I think LinkedIn is a great channel. I will always reply to my emails. So happy to chat with the audience. And thanks again for this experience. And always happy to share, if I can help, our entrepreneurs to start or scale. I mean, it's from my experience and mistakes, always
exactly.
I feel useful.
It's hugely valuable for other people. That's why I'm doing this in the first place. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Todd. See you soon.
And this wraps up my conversation with Renaud Charvet, co-founder and US CEO of Ringover. If you got value from this episode, please share it with other SaaS founders who need to hear this as well. And if you got 10 seconds, a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts will help more people to find these conversations. Thank you for listening to the Remarkable SaaS podcast. If you want more insights like this, subscribe to my daily email, Espresso with Ton. It's a 2-minute shot of clarity for SaaS founders who want to create pull, not push. You can sign up, along with getting my book, at valueinspiration.com. See you in the next episode.